Okay, so the purpose of this discussion is to find out a little bit more about how we build judgment and how we can improve our judgment during an interview to successfully identify the right people for our interviews. So, I think let's start again from nothing. Let's start again from nothing and then begin there. All right. So, as I was telling Jenna just earlier, I think one of the most important things if you want to have good judgment is to have strong observation. So these are so vital in order to be able to make sense of the interview. I think when you first begin as a junior interviewer, you're going to probably see a very low resolution of what is actually happening. You're going to see a person explaining things, and that's intense enough, right? Because you're already thinking about like, am I asking the right question? So your mind is kind of focused internally. But when you become, I think, a more experienced and advanced interviewer, your mind is almost entirely going to be empathizing and trying to understand how the mind of the person you're interviewing works, right? And how the behavior of what they're doing actually gives you a more full and clear picture of what this person is like, okay? I think one of the primary things to understand is that no matter what, this is probably 50-50, right? So as much as you would like to probably say, yeah, I can pick out winners right away, you're probably going to be wrong maybe half the time, right? So what you're looking really to build is just a slight edge over 50%. Like what you're trying to build is maybe you get it right 55%, maybe 57% of the time, and you're wrong 43%, right? If you're really, really good, I've never met anybody who's perfect at this. If you're really good, maybe 60, 70%, you can get it, right? But okay, what I'm going to do now is this. I'm going to talk about things you can do to improve your odds. So I think of it as an analogy for I like playing poker, okay? Like in poker, you can win, you can lose, no matter how good and skilled as a poker player you are, because a bit of it depends on luck. And it's the same here. You don't necessarily, it's like getting dealt a hand, right? You can't control what kind of person applies. So it's like you can't control what kind of hand you're going to get in poker. So anyway, those are some just general expectations to have. So let's talk about building judgment and what is important. I'm going to have to reconnect my Wi-Fi. Give me a second. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Okay. All right. Great. So actually, I just remembered something. Building judgment, we need to first know the purpose, right? What exactly are we trying to judge, right? If you don't have a targeted purpose, then it's really hard to build judgment because you don't know what you're looking for. So let's just go to DHawk for our inspiration here. The primary things that we're looking for when we're, let's say, creating an interview judgment is this. We're looking to understand, does this person have integrity? Do they have motivation? Do they have capacity? Do they have understanding? Knowledge and experience is not so important. Knowledge and experience is not so important because knowledge is really easy to test. Experience is really easy to understand. You can just double check, right, and see if they have the experience. But the things that we're trying to look for are the things that are harder to detect. They're attributes. Okay, so then this is already something that improves our likelihood of being successful. We've limited the scope of what we're going to try to look for. Okay, all right. So then let's start exploring what things we can observe. So just earlier we said we can observe body language. We can observe conversation tone. Okay. We can observe neuroticism. Okay, that's a good neuroticism. How do I spell that? Neuroticism, right? We can also observe probably critical thinking. Okay, which kind of comes to understanding as well. And we can also, if we're careful, we can observe motivation, or at least let's say, we can observe the attitude towards uncertain situations. That is very, very evident in an interview. Okay. All right. So we have these factors that we can observe. So what exactly are we looking for, right? In each particular category, are we looking for? Okay. Body language could mean a lot of things. Okay. It could mean posture, right? I think we had a candidate last week who was a sales and BD person, and his posture was kind of like this the whole time during the interview. And I'm thinking, in my entire experience, I've never seen anybody who is interviewing for a job who's sitting back in his chair, like he's like waiting for you to say something to persuade him. Usually, most persuasive people they'll adopt a forward posture. They'll lean in. That's kind of like a good sign, right? And lean in generally indicates that person wants to persuade you. And if you're hiring somebody, they should probably be doing most of the work to persuade you why they should be hired, right? So that's one thing we can look at posture. The other thing you can a little bit more advanced but tricky is you can look for eye motion. Now this one's a pseudoscience and it depends and whatever they I don't know whether to give much credibility to this, but apparently there is generally one direction you go to for visual creativity and one direction you go to for visual access. Okay, so let's see if this is true. Actually, let's go to Jenna. Jenna, how many intersections are there between the nearest MRT station and your house?
Um, what do you mean by intersection?
How many road intersections are there between the nearest MRT station and your house?
Round 2 to 3.
2 to 3. Okay. All right. Good. Tell me what you think would be the color of the child of a hippopotamus and a cheetah.
Orange.
Okay. All right. I couldn't tell, right? Maybe I should zoom in on your face a little bit more. But generally, there's one direction your eye goes to remember things. Okay. So if I'm trying to remember a fact, your eye, for if you're right-handed, it's generally to the upper left. Okay, if you're trying to remember things. If you're trying to create an image in your mind, like what would the child of two, things look like? That is visual creativity. That usually goes to the upper right if you're right-handed. You might be able to find patterns in that. I don't think it's very reliable, but how you can use that is, let's say you ask a fact-based question, right? You would have to calibrate this first. You would have to like ask somebody a few questions that are absolute facts, right? Things that they would need to remember but are absolute facts. Like how many people were in your high school math class, right? Okay, let me think, right? And then let's say you ask them something that it should be a fact, but if their eyes go the opposite direction, that could indicate that they're making shit up, right? So there is some, maybe correlation to that. So you could look at eye motion to determine truth or falsehood telling. Um, it's not so strong, right? Another part of body language is probably if they're relaxed or nervous. You can probably gather that, right? Do they have a confident body posture or not? Okay. Conversation tone. You can see if they are an excited tone, casual tone, bored tone. It might reveal something about their state of mind. Some people are excited, but they still have very pouring tones, maybe. They're like, yeah, I'm totally pumped up to do this. It's going to be amazing. Doesn't sound like, but whatever, right? So this one I find a little bit difficult to extract any meaningful information. Neuroticism is very, very telling. Actually, it's very telling. So this one I find to be very, very easy to detect. Okay, now neuroticism, does the person blame themselves for making mistakes? Okay. Um, you can kind of see this sometimes if you get a candidate like, "Oh man, I messed up. Oh, geez, I should have said that. Oh, I'm so dumb. Oh man." That is generally not a good sign, and it is counter to growth mindset, right? Um, it's counter to growth mindset, and it is also counter to empathy, because a person who is a bit too neurotic cannot empathize. They're always seeing things from how others see them rather than being able to actually feel what others are feeling. So this one is actually pretty revealing. I think you can almost surmise a few different qualities. Do we have people with neuroticism who are successful here in Bukit Vista? Yeah, sure, we do, right? Some people are able to kind of, I guess, keep it in balance, but we also have people who probably won't be able to develop here, right? So neuroticism I see as actually kind of a counter. It could be a counter to productivity, or no, to capacity, if not managed well. Okay. Okay, and then critical thinking. Critical thinking is pretty easy to test in some ways. You could just ask somebody like a Socratic question, right, about their particular subject. Hey, look, if your marketing plan wasn't working after 3 months and you ran out of budget, what would you do next, right? And and here's the way to test critical thinking: just keep on asking why, right? Keep on asking why, and then another why, and then another why. And keep on doing that. Five whys. If a person has really strong critical thinking, they're able to carry a pretty good why almost infinitely, right? They can probably go to the beginning of the universe for their why, right? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why is that good? Um, so you can really see how deep a person's understanding is in that dimension. All right, motivation is really really good for certain roles. Um, what I like to do to test people's motivation is this is where you need to upskill, right? You need to create a situation where somebody is going to fail, right? Like there's no way they could actually deal with this particular problem, okay? Um, I'll give you an example of one way I tested it. You can have a math problem, right? That's a good way to see somebody's motivation, especially if you know they're not good at math. It's even better if they're not good at math. Okay. So I remember I asked somebody this question. All right. Oh, here's a beautiful question. Here's a beautiful question. Uh, what is 19 multiplied by 17? What is 19 multiplied by 17?
Am I allowed to use the calculator?
Yeah, you can't use a calculator. You have to do it just hands up. Right. How would you do 19 multiplied by 17?
Um, I need pen and paper.
Oh, okay, all right. That already says something about you, right?
Yes.
So okay. Here's this. The interesting about this question is you can see three types of people that answer this question. Okay, the first type of person is a math whiz. They will do this. They will realize that 19 times 17 is pretty close to 20 times 17. Okay, so they'll see that in their head. They'll see that, oh, I can just round up, make it 20. 20 times 17 is easy. It's 340, right? It's a relatively easy problem. And then they'll remember that since it's 19, they just subtract a 17 from the 20 part, right? So they go 323. And they can come up with that really quickly. So that indicates somebody has a really good shortcut, logical way of thinking, and they can come up with a solution. Okay, that's number one. Number two is somebody that says that I need more resource, right? That is also a good sign. That's somebody that is going to collaborate and not just go like, "Oh, okay, and is willing to. That person is willing to collaborate. They will tell their leader, they will tell their manager that they need more time, that they need resources, that they need something to be able to do it. Okay. The third type of person will try to do it, feel ashamed that they can't do it, and just kind of be like really quiet and like, and they won't ask for help, and they won't, and that's not good, right? You already know that that person probably won't ask you for help if they have a problem. The worst person just gives up, says, you know what, and you know that when that person meets a problem, they will not be motivated necessarily to try to solve that problem, right? They'll just go, don't know, um, which is not good, right? So that tells you a little bit about what a person might do if you hire them, okay? So if you hire them and there's a problem, are they going to even tell you there's a problem? Right? Are they going to say, I need pen and paper? Or are they just going to just kind of sit there and be like, for 2 weeks and not get anything done? So you can kind of detect motivation through that. That's one way to detect motivation, right? 11 times, or 17 times 19, right? The other way you can detect motivation is if you really know something about the thing that they're going to do, right? You have some knowledge where you can trap them. Let's say they're doing marketing. You can find an impossible marketing problem. You're given a tiny budget. You need to reach 1 million people. You have 5 days to do it. How would you actually do this, right? And then you then need to say no, unless it blows your mind away. You need to go, you know what? That doesn't sound like a really good answer. That's not the answer I would expect. And then you see what they say. You don't need to necessarily even need to. Okay, this is really good. This is really good. You don't even need to know what the solution is. Okay? You don't even need to know what the solution is. All you need to know is you need to be a difficult person. Okay? That's it. No, I don't accept that answer. No, I don't think that's very good. No, I think, and you can already understand how this person behaves under pressure, under a situation. Do they have the correct answer and they just don't, you know, they don't say it? Well, you know, this person probably won't step on toes, right? Like you can already tell that. If it sounds like a correct answer, you can still say no. That's not what I would expect. Now, a smart person would say, well, what do you expect, right? Well, I expect, and that is already a good sign. I mean, that's all you really wanted to test during the interview. You don't need to actually engage. You can be like, good, okay, all right, I can see what you are. You move on to the next question then, right? But let's say you just keep on saying no, and they get more and more frustrated, and then they start doubting themselves, and then they go, oh, it's because I didn't have breakfast this morning, or like my mom died, or whatever it might be. You kind of already know how this person will deal under very uncertain, high pressure situations. They'll fold. Okay, so that's generally, let's say, a test, right? Find an impossible test problem, and then just force them into it. That's how you can see motivation. The people who have the right motivation will always find a way to harness new energy, to harness new ideas, to try to engage, right? And that can actually be a really good observation about problem solving, right? Okay, problem solving, there's two things. There's the technical, and then there's the people part. You can do a funny thing, right? Let's say this math problem person, the person who got it right, you can say, I'm not too impressed by that, even after they get it right. See what they do, right? Because problem solving is two things, right? One is, did you solve the problem? The second is, can you explain how you solve the problem to other people? So this is where you can get really clever with this. You can be like, yeah, you solved the problem, but I'm not too impressed. Do they go, okay? Or do they go, why? I'm just not impressed. I think you could have done it faster. And see what they do, right? That would be interesting, right? You're kind of seeing how their mind works. So a lot of the ways to building better judgment is actually to give more difficult interviews, to actually kind of push people into a condition where what you're really trying to do, you're trying to strip people out of their comfort zone, okay? And the reason you're trying to do that is you're trying to have them abandon their knowledge. You're trying to see where their knowledge doesn't serve them anymore, right? Where their experience doesn't serve them anymore, where their skills don't serve them anymore. Ideally, where their understanding doesn't serve them anymore. Um, if you see where their motivation doesn't serve them anymore, guess what you have?
Um, mm, if their motivation don't serve them anymore, then
Yeah, guess what you have?
unmotivated.
No, no, no,
What?
no, 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 no. So it's like this, right? So we strip away their knowledge, we strip away their experience to test their knowledge, right? We strip away their knowledge to test their, let's say, their understanding, okay, and their skills, which just kind of goes. We strip away their motivation or their understanding to test their
Oh,
motivation. If we strip away their motivation, what can we start detecting?
integrity.
Yes, you can start detecting their integrity. Each of these layers you can think of as like kind of a shield, as like an onion, right? So if you have, and this is why you should never be talked down by somebody who has a lot of experience. That's what I hate about candidates, like the one we had like 2 weeks ago. It was like, so I have a lot of experience, right? That is camouflage the way I see it. It means that you have experience and you're hoping that we will say that's good enough, right? But no, let's take away your experience and really see, do you actually have knowledge? Okay. Let's say, okay, in this, if you have 10 years of experience, then tell me a case that is, let me give you a really hard case that we've had in our marketing and tell me how you would solve that, right? Well, if you have the knowledge, then you should be able to understand how that is done. But let's take away your knowledge and see if you actually can actually understand things that are brand new, that have never happened before. You have no previous reference point for that. So let's go. Let's talk about something that you have no understanding about. Let's talk about quantum mechanics, right? Let's talk about like, theory of relativity. Let's talk about like, modernist impressionistic art. Can you be motivated to like dig deeper and try to see, can I actually understand this for my interview, right? And let's take away your motivation, right? Let's push you to the very edge where you feel like completely empty. You have no more, like, how I don't know what to do anymore. What do you do, right? Do you go, oh, it's the world's fault, right? Nobody loves me. You guys are all, everyone hates me, right? I'm going to steal to get ahead. I'm going to cheat to get ahead. I'm going to use my black arts to find a way. So that, I think, is essentially the way that you can create judgment, right? You think of ways to remove like safety, comfort zone of each person until you get to kind of like the heart of what they are. I haven't perfected the integrity test yet, but I'm trying to. And this discussion that we're recording is, I guess, a work in progress too as well. Okay, so basically, I'll just kind of boil it down, right? You're looking for things that potentially tell you something about, let's say, a correlation, right? Conversation tone can tell you a bit maybe about motivation and maybe integrity, but I don't know. Maybe if somebody gets too excited, if you talk about, oh yeah, this person who just tried to get this job, or let's say, for example, I have two candidates come in, I tell them the other person failed. Do they get too excited about that? I mean, that might be maybe not such good integrity, right? So maybe you can detect that from that. Neuroticism. Neuroticism is I don't know, like I don't have a perfect thing, but that's more growth mindset, and it could affect bias to action as well. Generally, if you're too neurotic, you don't take action. You're just like, everyone, I'm not going to be able to succeed. So that can be an indication of that. Critical thinking and understanding is obvious. That's just for measuring understanding, and yeah, judge motivation. So just remove them from an area that they are an expert in, and then you can start seeing like what their motivation profile looks like. That's how I would generally judge somebody, right? I give myself criteria and then look for how to kind of bring out that criteria. And for the most part, yeah, attributes need to be attributes you need to distance yourself from anything that could be reliably answered by the candidate, right? It needs to put the candidate in a position where they're where they don't really know what to do. So then you can kind of see what do you do when you don't know what to do. All right, that's kind of it. The other thing I guess you could look for is the opposite of neuroticism, which is emotional stability and rigor, right? Bayou had a lot of this during his interview. I remember he was cool as a cucumber, right? We asked him a lot of hard questions. We asked a lot of weird questions. He just he had like a perfectly intelligent answer for everything. And if the question was not smart, he would call that out. And you can do that too. Actually, that would be an interesting test. You put deliberately. That's a good test for emotional stability, which is also kind of like step on toes and kind of maybe a never settle thing, which is you can deliberately put false questions. Right? You can say things that make no sense at all, right? You can say, "Hey, look, the only people who actually get in this company are Trump supporters. Actually, how do you feel about politics?" Right? And see, Is it likely that they would have naturally been a Trump supporter, or would they? And if you're not sure, then you say the opposite right after that. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, most of the people who answered positively to that question didn't get in. Would you like to revise your answer and see do they swing the opposite way? Right. That is a good test of integrity. Yeah. That could be it. You could kind of like see do they stay grounded into one particular thought, or are they going to change depending upon the situation, right? Okay, like I said, this is kind of a black art. How do you get better at this? You record your result with what you had believed. Okay, so you need to be in the habit of maybe like keeping a table somewhere, right? We generally do it on candidate tracking. So we'll make a prediction about a particular candidate. I don't know. Maybe you can look at your own agenda, right? If you want to see what everyone thought. So we generally will, like I ask everybody to make a prediction, right? Do you think this candidate will be like this or be like that? And why do you believe that? What are you using to actually build that judgment? Now, after a while, you'll start seeing correlations. You'll be like, oh, every time a candidate sneezed during the interview, they failed the trials. So maybe sneezing during an interview makes you correlated to failing. It's correlation, it's not causation, right? So you got to kind of like pass it through your logic mind and go like, does sneezing really have anything to do with this? But other things you start noticing might be a little bit more in pattern. Uh, Udayana graduates generally are not good fits at Bukit Vista. But recently, Felicia happened to be an exception to that rule. But it is still a statistical rule. Most Udayana just don't pass. Felicia is somewhat of a rarity. So, okay, um, you'll build this intuition over time and you'll start relying on your favorite interview questions over time, right? But your questions should never be the best word is non-deterministic, right? Deterministic questions are kind of like the focus group discussions. They reveal a lot of information about how people are behaving, um, and then you have clues that you can gather out. But if you notice your questions only lean towards a positive impression of every candidate, then your questions are probably not really bringing out the details, right? They're not creating like what you want is a gradation. How do I express gradation? Kind of like that, right? That's an example of a gradation, right? If your test is thorough, then you should be able to see how different layers will show up. Okay, if your test is not thorough, then it'll just show like one color, right? It's always white, right? No matter what, your question always produces a white result. Okay, anyways, I've monologued for long enough. Do you have any questions or any way or any edge cases that you want to pass by me, like in terms of like somebody that you weren't sure about or how to pick a particular candidate?
Like a particular case.
Yeah, any particular cases where you weren't too certain about?
I think it'll be one that you commented on the
Okay.
intern Twitter Bali.
Okay. How do I find this person? Oh,
Uh,
content creator.
yeah, I'm trying to find it. I'll send you the link.
Okay. Was it an individual candidate or was it a campaign?
An individual candidate.
Okay, got it.
Uh, okay.
Okay, let me take a look at that. All right. Okay, let's take a look at Mr. Content Creator. Oh, also Jenna, by the way, a lot of this you can save yourself having to do judgment if you stick to a lookalike audience. Generally, what you'll find is that this is an English expression, birds of a feather. Right? You ever hear this expression, birds of a feather? Not the sitcom, of course. Birds of ah. Okay.
Yes. But of the same feather flock together.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking at, let's say, a particular group of people, generally speaking, oh, like your school, for example, NTU, right? We didn't even need to have you go through trials and project presentation because the last two HR interns from your school were wonderful, right? Actually, I think you've. Hey, actually, that's interesting. I think you've grown more than they did. Hey, which means that I'm a better leader than Ara was. Okay. Okay, no,
Okay.
because I think they were led by Ara last time. But anyways, okay, I just realized that. So we think birds of a feather flock together. So you can probably relax your judgment if you hire from similar groups, right? So we kind of take it into our mind that the university has certain selection process. These selection processes are probably as rigorous, if not more rigorous, than our own selection processes. So therefore, they've kind of pre-selected people that would actually be a good fit here. And that's one of the main reasons why I think people go to college, actually, so that it's easier to discuss or to find. Okay, so let's take a look and see the Wayan para hasta Bendesa. Okay, um, right. I'm looking at this, and okay, yep. I wrote that, and yep, okay, yeah, okay. All right. Let's take a look at that. Right. So let's take a look at your questions, and let's decide if they're deterministic or not. All right. Good. Introducing yourself is fine. Skill set, core competencies. All right. I can see from this interview that um, you're not dynamically moderating, are you?
What do you mean by
Okay.
dynamically moderating?
Dynamically moderating is you're asking questions based on their response. Okay. So that is what a more experienced interviewer would do. Okay.
Mm.
So let's say, for example, I can see already in the introduction, there's two really good questions you can ask, right? One is about motivation. You can say, "Oh, you haven't had any steady jobs. Um, how would you see your career looking like in the next 2 years? Do you want a stable or do you want to have more flexibility? You want to frame it in a way that is open. You know, he's probably going to be smart enough to guess that you're expecting stability, but you want to frame it in a way that you might actually frame it in the opposite way. Do you really want a stable job? Right. Like almost to suggest that you expect the opposite answer to happen and see what they say. See, that's a really good way of using counter tone to get the answer that is truer. So you want to suggest that the answer is no. You kind of want to almost imply that the answer, I don't want a stable job, is the answer you're looking for. Because if you do get that answer, then okay, all right, you've made it easy for this person to say yes, right? But if they say no, it's about time that I really bolted down and thought about where the direction my life is headed and all that. So that's one branch off point that you can jump to right there, right? The second branch off point is this 56,000 YouTube subscribers, right? You really branch into that and go like, oh, okay, all right. So tell me about how you made that happen, right? What innovations did you come up with yourself to build this group, right? How did you inspire your light for your subscribers so that they would keep on growing? Uh, who was positively transformed by your YouTube channel? So these are all different, really hyper relevant ways that you can see, does this person have innovation tendencies, right? Do they have the desire to help others first? Do they actually have this mission to make people's lives better? And are they self-focused? So that's what I mean by dynamic moderation. You change your questions based on things that the person says, and this requires a observation, a very sharp observation, right, to detect when that's an opportunity. Yeah, okay, it's like BVE talk, right? We ask questions based on what we get. Okay, because I see that you're asking them about core values and you're going down the thing, right? So, how did you set up the core value question?
I just asked them which core value do they agree with the most.
Can't do that, right? So when you do that, what you're doing is, well, what's the point? What will you understand from? I could say anything. I could say, be transparent is my favorite core value because I like being transparent. Okay, so is that a good answer or no?
No.
Well, what would be a good answer then in that case, Jenna?
Um, Maybe if they elaborated more and like give personal example,
Okay.
maybe.
I could say, being transparent is great because it helps other people understand the work that I'm about to do. And I could just bullshit a bunch of stuff, right? That I know you want to hear because, I mean, everyone kind of understands how corporations think, right? I
Mm.
could just keep on using five buzzwords, being transparent helps team collaboration and problem solving by facilitating greater engagement with our teammates, right? And yeah, that doesn't mean you really believe it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the way to detect core values is to ask questions to explain somebody's work. Does that make sense? It's like, all right, you built that YouTube channel, right? How many people did you collaborate with to build that YouTube channel? Five. Okay. Who did you collaborate and how did you collaborate? All right. How did you make sure that information was shared so that everybody could see it? Or that's not good. That's a leading question, right? You're already suggesting
Mhm.
that there's a thing. Um, who would agree that this project was well managed? And why would they say that this project was well managed? And what was the ultimate purpose of creating this channel? Who got the most benefit out of it? Um, what did you do when you saw that things on the channel weren't working well? And how long did it take for you to come up with a new plan if things weren't going very well, right? Who did you collaborate with on that? So by asking these questions, you really get to see if a person has core value fit or not. By asking somebody like, it's kind of like, do you guys have sororities and fraternities in Singapore?
Um, Not really.
Okay. Are you familiar with this concept of a sorority?
Yeah.
Or okay. So it's like, yeah, you want to be a Delta Epsilon. So tell us why you should be here. Oh, I want to be a Delta Epsilon because I want to be, as brilliant and cool. And so it just becomes like kind of like this exercise in flattery, right? And it doesn't really because they know what you expect to hear, right? They know that you're going to test. Do they know the core value and can you say something relevant with it? But they don't know if you're going to be listening for a core value if you tell me a story, right? Because they're already going to be thinking about how do I narrate the story. They can't really, they'd be really, really sophisticated if they could actually weave the story around core values. But that's what you're looking for. You're looking for, does this person weave any core values into their story that are relevant? Okay, so once again, avoid asking a direct question like that and think more about how to listen passively for a core value being reflected. This is what I do all the time, actually, inside the company. This is why we do core value recognition, right? You see it, right? Oh, that's a core value being exercised. So similarly, I think you should do the same, right? Because you're working between the transformation and the selection funnels. Okay. Who doesn't dislike politics? Who likes politics?
Yes. I think I see where you're going
Right. I
to
mean,
it.
these are not deterministic, right? Agree with transparency. Oh, why is that wrong, right? Um, fail fast. Okay, yeah. Okay. So, but the thing you want to know is this, right? Let's say this. Tell me about the greatest failure that you had while you set up this YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Do they talk about something that is very embarrassing? They talk about something that puts them in a vulnerable position, right? If they do that, and if they put themselves in a way that is not flattering for an interview, right, for the sake of truth, they're either really clever and they know that this is what you want to hear, or they are being very transparent and they're telling you kind of like what the situation is, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you can detect that right away. And then you say, okay, about that greatest failure, tell me more about how that failure evolved until today, okay? And what you're listening for is, did they ever take corrective action once they found out it was a failure? And then, if they did take corrective action, how long did it take? Right? Did it take a day, a month, a year? Right? And then you can see if they're failing fast or if they're failing slow. Right? Um, you can think about, okay, all right, who was involved in the corrective action that let's say improved your failure? All right. You can see, do they collaborate or do they just kind of block everybody off, go into a man cave and try to solve the problem on their own? So this is the way that I would go about trying to explore core values. Okay. This is a good question. Have you learned and done anything in the past few weeks? What did they say?
Um, I think he mentioned about the two bullet points below.
Okay, I would not say that that is anything relevant, right? Experience in the workplace. Experience isn't learning anything. Experience is just being there, right? You can
Mm.
spend 3 months and say I have 3 months experience and not learn anything, or you could say, you know what, I learned this today. Part time. So he's talking. Okay, already I can say that this is a no pass because when you asked him what did he learn, he talked about activities. He did not talk about results,
Oh.
right? He's talking about activities, and these activities aren't even relevant to learning anything. Um, it's. I'll give you an example of a high quality answer. When I asked Bayu this particular question, he stunned me. Right? He stunned me because at that point I was just playing with this new app that I had found. It was called. Let me show you. Right? It was called If This Then That. So it was if this then that. Right? PPT. So if then that is a type of way that you can chain together actions. Like if you get a tweet, then immediately copy that tweet to YouTube and broadcast it and send it out to your playlist, right? If you get an Instagram message with the hashtag this, then create a calendar date to schedule a meeting with the person who wrote it. So it allows these like subsequent like dominoes, right? If this happens, then this next thing happens. So Bayu said, yeah, I'm looking at this new tool and thinking about how I can use it to, I forgot what he was doing, but I think he was doing event management at the time. And I was like, brilliant, right? This tells me that this person really does have a growth mindset. They're looking for ways to make things simpler. And I had been looking at that at the very same time. So I found that to be very, I knew exactly what it was for, right? So I could already understand. So that's the kind of answer you want. You want to know, does this person actually go and study things on their own, right? Like I can answer this question really well any week because every week I try to learn something new. Like I learned how James Cameron made Terminator. I'm really, really happy about that. Like I got the masterclass open right here, right? And I ain't bullshitting either because I finished the entire class. Wait,
I
wait.
say I'm starting.
Sorry, my progress. So I finished the entire class in one night. I was like so passionate about Terminator was one of my favorite movies. I always wanted to see how it was made. But wait, where did it go? Hey, did my internet just die? Oh, my moment of truth. Don't you hate that when you try to like show don't tell and then your show falls apart? Ah, here we go.
Yes.
Okay, so on the yeah, see, I watched all the episodes, all the episodes. So if a person can show you that, that's a very good sign. That means that even without, let's say, prompting, even without anything, they enjoy the learning process. If all they show you is just a YouTube video, or you know what's a really good one? Show me your YouTube account, right? Show me what it shows on your YouTube account, and I can tell you what kind of person you are, right? If I think my YouTube account is mostly like learning stuff, right? So, hey, that's a great question. Show me your YouTube account. And if there's anything, okay, so there's books, there's cooking channels, there's some weird stuff, some sync ups, some comedies. I guess I don't always use this one. I use the Bukit Vista one because this one has ads. But okay, anyways, does that make sense? So
Yes.
okay, I'm just trying to make this playful. So definitely, you're looking for something that they actually learn, and then ask them if you want to actually test how well they know it. Feynman method that, right? Ask them to explain it to you, right? Like, hey, you learn. I learned how to play the guitar. I've never played the guitar before. What should I know? What are the 3 things I should know before I pick up a guitar? And see if they actually have anything that is cogent. Okay. Um, experience of it. You just asked them the question, right?
Yes.
So you have no way of understanding whether or not that actually happened, right? Um,
Mhm.
you don't they can just attach that to anything. They can say I inspired delight through my relationship with my mom, right? Because my mom is delighted with my cooking. Okay, great. Have you any way to verify that? Do you have any control over whether that's true or not? So you don't know if it's entertaining these people. You don't know if it's guiding them, right? How do you know? You need to be able to collect that information from the story, right? So like if I interview this person, I would just talk about this one topic alone. That would be enough. I would just drill into that topic, and then I would understand. Okay, who benefit from your work, and how do you know they benefited from your work? And what did that benefit actually look like in terms of something that you could see? And that's really revealing because let's say they don't care, then they wouldn't know, right? They would say nothing. You're like, I don't know who benefits from my work. I know a bunch of dumb shits come and watch my YouTube channel. What the hell are you asking me these stupid questions for, right? Um, so okay, you know that, or you know what? I really follow up to make sure my audience really gets something out of it. I read every comment, and so I respond to every comment. And after I responded to 100 comments, I realized this new insight, right? That I could structure my videos in a way to make them more engaging. And once they were more engaging, I got some feedback that one of my audience they got a job from watching my videos. So I felt super delighted, and I put that up on my wall, right? That then they're giving you evidence, but they don't know that you're looking for that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but if they know what you're looking for, then they'll just always give you something, and you don't even know if it's actually the real or if it's counterfeit. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Why BV? Um, no. Once again, not the best way. The best way is to understand what kind of company this is good for, and then understand if they have the attributes that would find it attractive, right? So I would try to kind of explore. Name 5 places that you've worked in or participated, 5 organizations that you participated in the past, right? These are the 5. Okay, great. Which ones were your favorite? These 3. Why were these your favorite? Because they had this, this, and this. Now, the 2 ones that you didn't like, how much did you not like them? Oh, I hated them. Okay, what were the things in common with these 2 organizations? They did this and this. Okay, all right. So, based on that and based on your understanding of the company, you can already understand whether this person is going to like it, all right? So, let's say the person says, the 2 companies that I hated were companies that gave me too much freedom. I was allowed to do whatever, so that was super confusing. And my mentors followed with me all the time, and I thought that was too off putting. I wanted to be left alone. Okay, probably not a fit here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need a place that tells me exactly what I need to do, when I need to do it. I want to check in at 9, leave at 5, and that's the type of experience I'm hoping to get. Okay. Says something about that, right? I like corporations because corporations are all about prestige. And when I go out, I want to tell my mom's friends that I work at some brand that they understand about, right? Okay. You just let the person talk. You let them be proud of what they want to be proud of, right?
Mm-hmm.
You let them be afraid of what they want to be afraid of. You should not kind of lead them any way. So, like these answers, it's a reputed company for hospitality. Okay. All right. Digital marketing and CC fits the skill set. Okay. But this applies, by the way, Jenna, to dozens of other companies. There's
Yeah.
no specific thing here, right?
Mm.
Here's the other way you can ask. What project really motivates you to be involved here at Bukit Vista?
Mm.
I don't know. You don't know. Okay. How much time were you given to prepare before this particular interview? How much time did you spend preparing for this interview? An hour? Okay, so I can kind of tell something about the motivation of the person. Or they can say a lot. And if they say a lot, then you can come back and say, well, you spent that much time and you couldn't find any projects that were worthwhile, right? So this is sort of like the dynamic you need to kind of explore, right? Um, how will you use your current skill set and knowledge? Okay, that's good. Marketability, improve YouTube. Okay, you need to drill down though on this improved YouTube video. What exactly is wrong? Right? Like, let's see if you can tell me in a way that I can understand as a beginner what you see is incorrect and why, and why, and why, and why, and why, and drill that all the way down to the very end. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so that will get you better. Okay, that's basically the summary around this. These are the questions that we're trying to come up with that get us closer to understanding basically how people think. Okay, when you're really good at this, you don't need this anymore. You will just understand basically what your end objective is. You'll understand what motivation looks like, and you'll be able to customize all your questions to essentially one particular story or one particular thing that this person has done. And
Mm.
there you can build an entire understanding of what attributes this person has, right? But until that day, just use these as a reference point to go from, right? What kind of things do you want to explore? And these are, I haven't reviewed them all, but I think these are more deterministic questions, right? They either have really high quality answers or really low quality answers. They won't have mediocre answers in the middle. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sound good?
Yep. Thank you.
All right, I think I better stop monologuing and go. Okay, we've ran out of time. So I'll catch you later, Jenna. And
Okay.
whoa, wait, before we go, what was your three biggest takeaways from this discussion?
I think most importantly is the kind of questions that I ask for like the interview.
Okay.
Secondly is like you can look out for other things like body language. But I'm still a bit not sure whether body language is like a good indicator because like I will usually be busy typing down their responses rather than looking at their body language.
Okay, you can do that, or you can record the session, right? I record a lot of sessions, and later on, what makes it easier is you can rewatch it. You can start going through and go through with a critical eye and saying, why did that person do this when I asked them a question, right? Or why were they slouching, and what made them all of a sudden go up? Once you start, just even if you don't understand it, just pay attention to it. After a while, you start noticing correlations, right? You notice that your speech has an effect on the other person, and it's almost reliable. Then you can go like, I'll give you an example. Some people, they I think they pretend not to understand. They
Oh,
they
yes.
they blame. Okay, this is a common thing. Very rarely do I have this issue with, let's say, people who speak English as a native language, right? They won't go, my connection's bad, I can't hear you. What they meant was you were talking too fast. I couldn't understand what you were saying, but I don't know how to say that either. So they usually just blame something else. How did I understand that? Because I know what their body language looks like when they're confused, right? I remember seeing that before, and then I see it again when they say that. So I know it's something to do with maybe confusion rather than, um, I know that that they heard something, so they weren't sure. So it's different from like, if you didn't hear somebody, you might not feel confused. You might just feel like upset or irritated, or like something like, could you what did you just say? Sorry, the connection wasn't good, right? That would be, let's say, a condition where the connection wasn't good. But what? Sorry. Could you say that again? They're thinking about something, right? My connection's
Yes.
not good. Well, you heard something, obviously, right? So those are one of the subtle things that you can start picking up. Okay, now that I understand where you're at, just focus on the interview questions for now. Yeah, just focus on that. Okay, so that's number one. What's your second takeaway?
Oh, but the first is the interview question. Second is the body language.
Okay, second and third. Yeah.
Third, probably the one on neuroticism. I think that one is like quite useful because I never really think about that before.
Yeah, yeah. We're exploring the. Do you know about ocean and canoe?
No,
You never heard? Wait, are you a psychology major?
no.
Oh, okay, all right. Ocean and canoe are two big five personality traits that are pretty helpful for constructing a.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So ocean radar. Wait, ocean radar is probably going to give me that. Ocean radar personality. So we currently have a radar chart based on our sort of whatever thing, right? But yeah, this is no wait. Where was ocean? Okay, this is ocean. Okay, yeah. Here's an example of ocean, right? So O is openness, C is conscientiousness, E is empathy. I think I forgot what A
Okay.
is, and N is neuroticism, right? So you want a lot of neuroticism in an analyst. You want them to kind of like not be. Yeah, you don't need neuroticism in certain things like public speaker. If you're a public speaker, you should probably not be neurotic. It's better probably to say the wrong thing and say it confidently than be always like, am I saying the right thing? Am I saying the right thing? I'm doing that. So you can kind of see where the balance is of kind of like different people, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Anyway, ocean is it's a very broad metric for understanding personality types, and I think a lot of social media companies, you probably have an ocean graph at Facebook, right, or at Instagram. They're tracking essentially what your ocean looks like based on your posts, and that gives them a model to then compare and aggregate people into different groups, right, to see where they belong. So anyways, yeah, that's one of the big five personality things. Okay. Um, We won't go into that today. That's a completely different research topic. Okay, but just yeah, stick to interview questions that reveal the behavior in a deterministic way, without revealing too much of what you are trying to prove. Right? If you're trying to prove something, generally people can anticipate it. They can meet you there. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Have a nice day, and
Thank
I'll see you later. All
you.
right. Bye bye.
Bye.